Okay, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole Lee and welcome back to another episode of You Never Know, where we talk about life, career, change, and the stories behind people who have taken the unconventional path and embraced the unknown. Today's guest is the Gen Z, a generation that many of us have an opinion on. And for those of you who don't know, Gen Zs are born between 1997 to 2012. And in today's context, that means they're about mid or late teens to the mid-20s. Many people around the world, from political leaders to corporate executives, are often wondering about what Gen Zs think, dream, and worry about. And it is my pleasure to have a Gen Z here today. He is a 21-year-old student from the National University of Singapore. Let's all welcome Glen Chan to the show. Glen, welcome.
Thank you.
It's your first podcast, right?
Yeah. First podcast ever.
Are you wondering why you're here?
Yes. I mean, I met Nicole and she told me about her life. Like first time we met, it was actually at a hike.
Yeah.
Right? So that was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then she shared me the first time someone was so open.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so open, so genuine. And the decisions that she made is appealing.
Thank you very much. A lot of people talk a lot of things about Gen Zs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I meet a lot of them, like whether it's on the mentoring hikes or like just in general people DM me on LinkedIn for coffees and stuff. And I think one thing, Glen, that I noticed about you is that you have a very proactive way of following up. So, for all of you Gen Zs out there, or even,
You're
whether...
a Gen Z too. Yeah?
I think whether or not you're a Gen Z, I think the ability to show up and to follow up really could bring you to different opportunities. And that's kind of why you're here, because I do meet a lot of Gen Zs, but I think what stood out for me was that you really followed up. So really appreciate it. And
actually, I didn't even expect to be one. Because you were like, oh yeah, I'm hosting this podcast and I'm looking for people. So I looked for people.
See, you never know.
Yeah.
You never know where it brings you. So this is your first podcast, and just relax and be yourself.
Yeah.
So I wanted to dive a bit more into Gen Z. There's a lot of preconceptions about this generation. What do you think this generation actually stands for? Is there some stereotypes that you feel like doesn't really do this generation justice?
So for me, I think there are certain stereotypes. The first would be Gen Zs are strawberries, right? They're typical like, oh yeah, they cannot stand harsh societal pressure. They cannot stand long working hours, right? And while that might be true to a certain extent, I think it honestly is quite a subjective thing, right? It's because that a lot of different societal pressures that is exerted on the new generation Gen Zs, right? So for example, social media, the face of influencers, the face of podcast, for example, or even feature on like television is also a privilege. It's also something that people want. To some extent, it is a contributing factor, as to why Gen Zs are, we want flexible working hours. Like we see people, hey, since COVID, this guy has been working at home, and then why not? We can apply this into my new role, my new internship, my new job, career, etc.
Right. So what you're saying is that because of the exposure to social media and the wider possibilities of what a career could look like, your mindset, or in general the mindsets of Gen Zs, are a bit more open to alternative ways of making money?
Definitely. Yeah. I think you can make money in a lot of ways. It's just how you want to do it. So I feel like personally today in society, Gen Zs are more catered towards following their passion, I feel. There's this appeal to, doing what I like, flexible hours, take a cut in pay to do what I like, It has changed a little bit. It's not like, put in long working hours. Everyone wants to run a business.
Yeah.
Right?
It is very heartening to hear that, because I'm not a Gen Z, but I'm also someone who is now, after a longer career in banking and in the more traditional industries, also starting to feel like I need to become more of myself and to lean into my passion and purpose. And I know that not everybody agrees or resonates with that, but it is very nice to see that the new generation is sort of thinking towards that path. Would you say the rest of your peers are also like that?
I think that's quite hard to quantify, right? That's hard to generalize that everyone has their own passion. There will be people that want to go into traditional banking like yourself. At the end of the day, it is a prestigious job. Right? It is a wanted, in high demand. But there are others, for example, like my friend. My friend Jia Qian is actually my group mate. So now she's pursuing modeling.
Wow.
Yeah. So modeling at the age of 19 is quite tremendous, applaudable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're currently in the business school. Is that a choice that you made on your own?
For me, I think it's more my own choice. So it actually is process of elimination. So maybe for more context, like my parents are lawyers.
Okay.
Then my brother is like studying like law.
Okay.
And then my sister studying medicine. So then when I thought about it, I was like, okay, why not try something else? Because I did actually apply for law and I did apply for medicine. I mean, and at the end of the day, there is some extent of like societal norms, right? The three top whatever, the four maybe in engineering, the four most common courses, right?
Yeah.
Like in university now. I felt like business as a whole is very broad. From there I am able and I'm going to specialize and learn about different industry before I make an informed decision. Yeah.
How much of what your family is doing impacts the path that you might want to take?
I think it's quite a large extent because at the end of the day, you do learn from their own stories, like my parents' stories, their past, their successes, their failures, or like how they even like run business. Yeah, so I think that actually excites me, like learning from their failures and their successes, and then deciding, hey, actually maybe I do want to pursue this, but not the law, the business side. Yeah, so things like that.
I have always wanted to ask this as a guy,
Yeah.
in Singapore.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people have different opinions on national service in Singapore.
Okay.
Do you think that period of time going through 1.5 years of national service or 2 years has impacted you in any way?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yes, to a large extent, because army teachers use different thing, right? It's not really academics. It's not really studying. I feel yes, because at the end of the day, the females, the girls, they come out of school, high school, JC, poly, whatever. They come out of school and they go straight into uni. So their brain is fresh. But in army, whatever skill sets that we learn there is also applicable in uni. So for example, punctuality. So in some aspects, there is relevant skill sets that we can bring forward, which girls may or may not have. So
Yeah.
it's different type of learning.
Right. So you pick up different
growth.
skills, even though your brain may be a bit rusty.
Yeah.
But you do pick up a bit more skills from
A bit more soft,
from national
and
for
hard.
soft
Yeah,
skills.
soft skills.
Let's talk a bit, dive deeper into the
Okay.
stereotypes about Gen Z.
Okay.
Like you talk about the digital side of it.
Yeah.
It does open your eyes to alternative careers. But has that also affected you in any way in terms of self-image and how people prioritize that over being real offline? Yeah.
Okay. Yes, definitely. One main one would be pure communication, right? So people are taking lessons online versus offline, like in person. People start skipping lessons, right, in uni. Or even back in JC, right? Like what is this Instagram like or like LinkedIn direct message like wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't like part of the school curriculum. So actually all this has changed or rather impacted my life because there is this constant pressure of, keeping up to date. If you don't do this, means you're missing out. If you don't like start content creation,
Right.
right, you're missing out, right? Because people are starting to learn how to market themselves, right, in business. So that is some change that I see, which could be seen as positive also. Yeah. There's also comparison, right? You talk about body image. But to me, I felt like it was a positive change because I saw it as a motivation instead of like a hindering factor. So like, for example, I see like, influencers that post their body. I picked up marathon because of social media. Yeah, because people started posting like their runs. So in 4 months, I managed to run a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What strikes me about what you have just said is the two sides of what's happening. Many people do see the rise of social media or the rise of digital learning as something that may be negative to the younger generation because they're not going outside that much. But two things you said kind of struck me. One is comparison, which in itself, if you see in a negative way, does make you feel a bit insecure and like you're not good enough. But on the other side, it's always about how you see. It's about how you see something. So for you, it actually inspired you to become better, healthier, stronger. But for some other people, it might be the other way, and we can talk about that as well. And the other second part you mentioned was personal branding, right? Being able to market yourself, which I can tell you, even as a non-Gen Z, that creates a lot of pressure. And it is probably something that I started just a year and a half or a few years ago in terms of posting on LinkedIn and being more out there. But it actually takes a lot out of you. And it takes a lot for someone to actually go out there and say, I want to be seen. You expose, a big part of you publicly, right?
Takes a lot of courage.
Exactly. So let's talk about the personal marketing, personal branding part of it. Like, how do you see it evolving, how it affects you as a person and as a student going out into the workforce?
I feel like personal branding is crucial. It's about how you carry yourself, what you want people to see you as. But in doing so, most people tend to lose themselves, right? They tend to not be themselves. They tend to do things for the sake of doing it. Like, for example, posting an event, right? Like, for the sake of posting, like, oh, look, I'm here. Or like posting at, like, Gen Zs, they like to go to the club. Like, they post their social life, which is no problem, right? It's not an issue. But to some extent, some people post for the sake of posting. Right? Some people do things for the sake of doing things. Which then begs the question of how real are you online? Like, your presence online. How accurate is this representation of yourself? Are you even being yourself? Like, what's the meaning of posting this food online? Is it to get followers? You know what I mean? Is there an ulterior motive in the things that you do?
Completely. That's a very, very good point. And to be honest, it's not just Gen Zs that face this internal dilemma, an internal conflict between wanting to be seen, to be followed, right? To have more influence.
Correct.
And balancing that with who you are inside. Because I think that even, take a professional platform like LinkedIn, for example, there is a lot of pressure to keep posting and to feel like, you're not doing enough.
Active.
Exactly. You feel like you have to check your feeds, you comment and like. And to be very honest, there was a point.
That's new to me.
Exactly. It's not just Instagram fever or TikTok fever. It's actually also LinkedIn fever.
In fact, my LinkedIn has replaced my Instagram.
Exactly. But I also realized that there is actually an addiction that you could develop. On LinkedIn, like a professional platform like LinkedIn. So, I mean, just as a side note, right, I actually, ration my time on LinkedIn so that I don't get sucked into this digital world and being pulled into liking and commenting all the time. And I think that's the same for Gen Zs and whoever is using, Instagram and TikTok, is to really balance that time between your online personality and then your offline life. And I want to talk a bit more about the darker side of comparisons and like posting because it's a bit more prominent and normal to talk about mental health issues as well. And I think it is in particular quite a big thing for Gen Zs. You talk about them wanting not to work too long hours and to be very honest, a lot of people judge you for that, right? Like, Gen Zs don't want to work so hard and
especially
whatever.
The older generation.
To be very honest, I have had very good experiences with Gen Zs. Having interns work with me, and I've had great experiences with Gen Zs. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing to not work such long hours because it can lead you to burnout.
Yes, definitely.
Right? So let's talk about, this mental health
Okay.
issue and how you view it and how sort of social media, does perpetuate a bit of that.
I think mental health is applicable to everybody.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a Gen Z thing. At the end of the day, you are controlled by your mental health, right? How much love you have, how much support, etc., how much time. If you take this concept and bring it to Gen Z, I would say that it is a large part of our life, especially not just like keeping up to date with LinkedIn or social media platforms, but also to feel like you're not enough. Have you ever heard of like the rat race? Yeah,
Of course.
Yeah, so the rat race, right, is a very prominent thing. Like every day, like you wake up and then you feel like, oh shucks, like I haven't done this, I haven't do that. And like when you compare, even when we compare LinkedIn professionally, like for example, if I compare my friends, it's like, oh no, like he's doing this, he's in this finance club, I'm not, or like he's doing that, but I'm not.
I was about to say that your LinkedIn profile looks quite impressive compared to
it's all right. Yeah,
when I was like at that age, I didn't even have 1/5 of what a lot of the Gen Zs have now on their CVs and on their LinkedIn profiles. That's on one hand pretty impressive, but on the other hand, I'm thinking, wow, it's so competitive because you have to fill up. If you have one line, like that's not it, right? You need to have at least 5 lines. So you do feel the pressure to add more things to your CV and
that's definitely like to stand out. People do see and say, hey, this guy looks better than this one, right? When they compare, or this guy speaks more fluent, right? Or this guy has more personality, more real. Yeah, so that's where personal branding also comes in, and how you portray yourself to people. But then that also is determined by your values, right?
Tell me more about that.
So your values such as like, what is the balance between your social life and your academic life, right? For Gen Zs. Like, do you just want to keep going to the club, right? Or do you want to half-half? So it depends on your take. Or do you want to spend more time like to network with professionals, right? Or do you just want to like enjoy life now? Because a lot of people say like, oh yeah, 4 years of uni is your best life. Or like, do you value like life after uni? Right? So if you foresee that, okay, if I'm going to put in the effort now and then my life will so-called be better in terms of like your job careers, the family opportunities next time, right?
Hearing you talk about all this is a bit deja vu because it reminded me of how I was before and all the topics and the views and the opinions of so many people.
It's a lot of noise.
Yeah, a lot of noise in terms of your peers, what they're looking for. So as a Gen Z in the first year of university, how do you and your peers see the world today? Are you worried or concerned about things?
So the first one would be a job. So how I see the world, which may differ, different people are different, right?
Yeah.
So how I see the world, it's very competitive, definitely. Like at the end of the day, you do have to put in effort and hard work to get even like something that you like.
Yeah.
It's also not guaranteed to be yours. And secondly, it will be when you talk about perception of the world, there will definitely be rising concern with regards to social norms, right? So like social equalities, right? Diverse cultures, right?
Okay, so one is competitiveness. You're kind of worried about the competitiveness in the world. And then 2 is societal norms. I just want to dig a bit deeper into societal norms. Did you mean that you're not sure today what actually are societal norms and if those norms are still applicable today?
Applicability of norms.
Right.
I think we all know like the general norms, like for example, Asian scolding, right?
Asians what?
Asian scolding, like
okay, you talk like family scolding.
Yeah, even that, not just education, right?
Right.
So like it's known that Asian are more tiger moms, or for example, I'm not sure about you lah. Maybe not.
I'm so not a tiger mom.
Yeah, definitely not. Nicole's not a tiger mom.
So relaxed.
So that and like sending to all like so-called quote unquote elite schools because Singapore is part of the world. It might not necessarily be derived in Singapore.
Agree.
Right? It can be brought from Western culture anywhere in the world, right? Which is far from Singapore. So I feel like it is definitely still there. It's very hard to change a social norm, right? Because it's social norm for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Then it's just how you live within quote unquote the boundaries, or if you decide to go out of the social norm, are you being yourself? You know what I mean?
I completely understand.
Which is where your personal values lie.
Yeah, I completely understand. And I think it's a very, very important topic to actually talk about, because I can understand the difficulty and the challenges in trying to not go against norms in your family, but at the same time trying to live your own life and be your own person, because it does not mean that they are norms and they are normal. Means they're actually normal for you, right? So, you know, whether it's tiger moms or being in a very strict family in terms of being conservative, and also that scolding culture, it is not something that you need to accept, right?
Or adopt.
Exactly. And I think that as I grow older, wiser hopefully, that I've also learned to draw my boundaries and to protect my boundaries as well, and to be my own person, and to say that at some point, and that's why I'm, you know, part of the objective of the podcast is also to inspire people to live the life that they want to live. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of your life,
it's your life, you
as
own
well.
it.
And even though we, you know, kind of respect the people that are closest to us, it is, you know, you deserve your own happiness and peace and joy as well. Right?
Like even I see like my friends, my close friends, like they all want to run for investment banking, but they actually, what do they even know about investment banking, right? I mean, come on, you're 21 years old. I see them like getting burnt out, like even as a 21-year-old, right? And then it's not sustainable. Every day they're like complaining. They're like, oh my gosh, I have to do this invest, you know, and this pitch, this whatever. And then it's like, is this really what you want?
Correct.
In the long run?
Correct.
In the next 20 years of your life?
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that even in their internships, they're already getting burnt out. 21 years old.
Not even internship. It's like the first semester. I'm like 2 months in.
You mean even in the class?
Yeah. They're tired. Like they come to school in like 4 hours. You're 21 years old. So even the need to attend events, talks.
Right.
Even if you don't even like this, like it's not doesn't interest you, you know? The need to attend like consulting if you don't even like consulting.
Right.
It's just, you want to be there. You want to like, you FOMO.
I was probably like that, or thought that I needed to be like that when I was at your age as well. But what I would say to my younger self is, do not be afraid to be different from other people. That even if the rest of the world is eyeing investment banking or burning the midnight oil, be your own person and try to stay true to yourself. Because I would say that, you know, so many people, even adults, you know, whether they call it millennials, boomers or whatever, a lot of people still don't know who they are and not what they want to be, but who they actually are. And if the earlier you can start to remember and connect back to who you actually are, is when you will actually thrive in life in a very sustainable way, rather than be someone you're not for most of your life. That would be my reflection and what I would say to my younger self, you know.
So actually for you, why do you leave PB? You know, you're in
private banking?
You're in such a prestigious place, right? I mean, everyone's eyeing for that.
First of all.
Right? Like I told my friend like, oh yeah, I'm coming down for this podcast. He's like, what? Your friend is in UBS? You know? Like things like that. Yeah.
Well, so first of all, I did not even want to step into a bank when I left. I was from
that I didn't know.
I was from SMU, Singapore Management University, and
so you're the first few batches.
Yeah, well, not first few. I'm not that old.
Okay.
But I did accountancy, which I didn't even want. I'm not even an accounting type of person, but just followed what my parents told me to. But I almost told myself that I would not want to step into a bank because everybody wanted to. And I was like, I'm not going to be like everybody else, right? So, and I didn't, right? I after graduating, I was a bit rebellious. I did events. But it was through events that actually brought me to
banking,
to private banking. And I was like, oh man, I was trying. I'm going back to where I didn't want to go in the first place. But sometimes you never know. You never know where life takes you. And you know, somehow some people, situations might actually pull you to a direction where it takes you down a path that you never know and where it leads you to.
Yeah.
So I actually got into private banking really by chance, right? Someone gave me a chance to hit there, and I persevered, and I worked hard, and I stayed through. But to answer your question, why did I leave? It's really for personal growth. I mean,
That's good.
I've been there, in the same bank for a long time.
enough.
Very, very good experience and good exposure. But at some point, it's like, where do I go from here? What do I value? You talk about values, right? And everyone has a different value. Some people can stay in the same job for decades and they're fine, right? But for me, I felt that there was so much more to life and so much more that I could give than just the job that I had. And that's the main reason why I left private banking for a fintech startup.
Like I just wanted to say that I really like your title, like you never know.
Yeah, thank you.
Because that speaks volume to life. Like life is very versatile. It's all about roads, windy roads.
Yeah.
Right? Highs and lows, ups and downs. And sometimes like the path that you have decided initially changes.
Yeah.
Right? But life is very unpredictable.
For sure.
You have to adapt, not just to your values, but adapt to life.
100%. And thanks for the compliment. I think, and I'll tell another story about how I came up with the name of the podcast. But I think that most people, whether it's Gen Zs or any other generation, don't really realize that life can throw you curveballs, things that you don't expect. And I mean, I've been through that myself, and it is very painful, and it can keep teaching you lessons if you don't learn it as well. And I feel that in a society sometimes that does it really allow much room for failure?
Kind of, I agree,
based on my experience. And like you talk about, families and being very harsh expectations and being very harsh on, the outcomes. I think that makes people think that life has to be linear and it has to be perfect. But actually sometimes it's how, like you say, how you see that situation. So if you see social media negatively, it will turn out as negative for you. If you see crisis negatively, you could very easily spiral downwards and into, having different anxieties and doubts and fears and, stress and everything. But if you see crisis as something that is a lesson for you to learn and for you to reset, then it will be as such, right? So another reflection that I have as well is your inner world shapes your outer world.
Okay, yes.
It does, and I would never have thought that I would get that.
Who taught you that actually?
Through life experience.
Oh, okay. It wasn't like a speech. Then you go and reflect,
I love podcasts, so learning from different, experts and people who have gone through life have taught me a lot about how actually your inner world shapes your outer world. I used to be someone as well who blames people for my situations and because that person was aggressive to me, so I have to be aggressive back as well. But I think going through ups and downs in life have also made me realize that if you are in a very good space internally, if you are kind and if you have a good energy, if you see things in a positive light, that naturally the people that will come to you, the situations that come to you
will be like-minded,
reflect your inner world.
Yes.
And that has been very profound for me.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I think many people lose themselves in the process of chasing dreams. And let's say you want to be like, I don't know, one of the big shots. And then you go for all the events, then you start losing yourself because you don't even have time to yourself.
Yeah.
Right? You have time to meet your clients, you have time to meet for coffee, but you don't even have time for yourself, for your family. Right? To even do your own thing. Maybe your passion can be like cooking, right? Simple things like that. Or like exercising. Then you don't have time. You don't even cater in your timetable.
Completely.
Yeah. In a way, it's not really time management.
No.
But like your priorities in life.
You raised very good points. It's something that I've definitely experienced in my life in terms of losing yourself
Yes.
because you're literally doing the same thing every day and you're being paid well for
Yes.
doing the same thing
Yes.
every day in a very good
Yes.
manner.
Yes.
But I've also realized that to find that fulfillment in life, it's not just about doing the same things over and over again,
Yeah.
but actually connecting back to
Your roots.
yeah,
Yeah.
the root of who you are. And like you say, it's actually not about time.
Yeah.
It's actually about energy and attention
Yeah.
to what matters to you.
Yeah. Priorities.
Right. So if, let's say, I love to write.
Okay.
Sometimes in, a certain industry or in your job, you don't get to express yourself in that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it gives you immense joy, or you
Therapeutic.
feel like you're impacting someone or a group of people. But in itself, spending 5 or 6 hours doing something that gives you joy
Yes.
or that leverages your gift actually doesn't matter
Yeah.
if the impact and the outcome is something that you feel it's worth
Yeah.
doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. From where you're sitting, a 21-year-old in Gen Z,
Yeah.
how do you see relationships?
For me, I would say it's very traditional. Like, I see relationship as love, as support, emotional support, not just like the title. But I feel like today, Gen Z's concept of marriage, of relationship is very different. It's not really marriage. It's like casual dating. So like with the rise of like all your online dating apps, like they are
Yes.
constantly like perpetuating, hey, like I met my boyfriend, I met my girlfriend on Tinder or something. Like how real is this love? Like how genuine is this connection? Because the truth is, when you are on all those dating apps, you're seeing how do you even matchmake? It's based on appearance, right? And yes, there's some element of truth in that, whereby you need this physical attraction to even talk to somebody, right? So then, but then how much do you know this person in order to date this person? Yeah, that's for a relationship. And how far do you see this relationship going? Like, is it short term, or is it long term? Like, what do you cherish out of this relationship?
So do you see dating apps and more online interactions, or at least in the first instance, as diluting the sanctity of long-term relationships?
Yes, definitely. Like,
Okay.
my take on that is as such, because I feel like even online, you can just filter your photos, right? No pimple, V shape. I mean, come on,
Guilty.
God, there's so many like all those beautify apps, right?
Exactly.
And while it is good, it makes you feel good online, right? But then imagine like you go meet the person and then it's not him or her, and then you're like, what? You know what I mean?
I'm sure there are a lot of stories about how there's a mismatch between what they see and
Yeah,
who
or
they
like,
actually meet.
Yes, or like catfishing, right? Like the term catfishing comes about.
Right.
Like they appear more beautiful than they look.
Right. I fully agree. And even, whether you call it dating or just networking, I think the beauty of having in-person, offline interactions and conversations,
Yeah.
I think it's priceless.
Definitely,
Like even
yeah.
interviews, like even
Yeah,
for
yeah,
job
yeah.
interviews, like
Yeah.
there's nothing that can replace,
Yeah.
in-person kind of conversations.
Yes.
Okay, so final 3 messages for
My fellow Gen Zs, or for the world?
for the world from a Gen Z
For the
perspective.
world.
What do you want to say? Like, this is the time, speak your truth.
Okay, so maybe to my Gen Zs, definitely be yourself. Like, do the things that you like. Might not necessarily pay well. So there must be a balance between the need for financial gain and the need for personal growth and like personal joy. So that's number 1. Maybe to others is be open-minded. So maybe to the non-Gen Zs, maybe who have certain perception of Gen Zs, stereotypes. Oh, this guy, like, oh, this applicant, so Gen Z means not hardworking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just be open-minded, because it's very hard to generalize the whole Gen Z as such. Right, they're definitely more hardworking, more fluent,
Agree.
more genuine people that you just got to talk to, right? You just got to be aware that these people exist. And maybe the last one would be communication and network. Like, be genuine in your network. Yeah. So talk to the people who not just like-minded, right? Who people who are very different from you, because they can offer a different perspective, right, of the world. Different people from all walks of life, different age, different culture, different race, everything. This diversity will add value in your life and your beliefs. And then you can then formulate your own belief and your own thoughts.
Thank you so much. I know it's your first podcast. You did really well. I just want to say thank you for representing the Gen Z community and to show us that what you stand for is much more than just money making. And I think you've shown us that you value so much more than that. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
Inviting me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, so formal.